Hey, welcome, fellow agents. Bob Mangold here with the Top Agent Talks podcast. Again, the mission of this podcast is to identify and interview agents that are succeeding in today's market, and most importantly, to share their wisdom with the entire real estate community. So please help us out. Share these podcasts with every agent you know. Now, the Top Agent Talks podcast is sponsored by the Home Boss Listing Hub, the framework for agents looking to scale their business to seven figures. Now, the Home Boss Listing Hub is an all-inclusive platform that empowers solo agents to sell 35 to 50 homes a year, in good markets or bad, doesn't matter, working 40 hours a week by focusing exclusively on listings. So today I'm here with Robert Weichelt, who's a national trainer, coach, mentor, and REO expert. And when I say REO expert, he's an REO expert, sold hundreds and hundreds of homes in the big boom years. Now, he shared his expertise with countless real estate professionals, been on stages all over the country, helping agents implement winning systems and scaling their business. So, Robert, welcome to the show.
Hey, Bob, good to be on, man.
Cool. Hey, let's start by talking about the one thing. You've been doing this since 86, so you've even been longer than I have, right? So you started when you're what, 5, 6 years old?
Just
Something
about.
like
It'll
that.
be 39 years this February.
Wow. If we had to narrow it down to one thing over the years that's contributed most to your success, what would it be?
Yeah, I would say one word: sellers. Absolutely the only way to go. Working with sellers, I control my time. There's so much more control I have than working with buyers. And you taught me this a long time ago and reminded me is I can do 5 listings in the amount of time it takes for an agent to work with one buyer.
Yeah, everybody goes, wow, why do you hate buyers? Like, I don't hate buyers. I love buyers. Somebody's got to buy our listings, right?
Yeah.
The problem is that it takes 40, 50 hours to get a home under contract. And Robert, you could do 4 or 5 listings in that same time frame.
Absolutely.
And I think what's most important, like Robert, you got a pretty cool story. Is it going to be a year or is it 2 years now since you sold everything and bought your Rockstar travel house?
We're 1 year, 3 months where we're full-time RVing around the country. And we decided that our kids are adults. They've got their own lives going on. We're obviously like to see them as much as possible. We saw this short window to take advantage of something both Carl and I have always wanted to do, and that's see the country. So we sold everything, put the stuff we wanted in storage, and we jumped in you call it a Rockstar RV. It's a big one. And we're traveling.
It's not an RV, folks. I'll just tell you that.
Yeah, it's awesome. We're full-time traveling the country, visiting friends, families, doing classes across the country, and just absolutely having a blast. Our next trip is to Kentucky. So we'll go into more of that detail later.
Here's the question every agent's going to have. Robert, how in the world can you travel and still do real estate business?
Since March of 2020, we weren't able to go into homes for a while there. And I decided that I need to be more efficient, more effective. And I started doing Zoom listing presentations because at the end of the day, it's getting a seller that's able, willing, and ready to rock and roll, getting them a conversation going. I found that a Zoom call is the most efficient way to do it, and taking into consideration traveling the country, because it's been a goal of ours for many years. And I was searching for a way that we could pull that off and I could still sell real estate. So we started traveling the country. I went and got Starlink. I literally set up shop, an office inside the motorhome. And all it takes is just a few minutes to pop the Starlink out, get my computer going. And every single seller appointment from that point forward has all been done via Zoom. Heck, you and I were in Cabo, and I took 4 listing appointments in Cabo, and that's when the real fire started.
No, you didn't take 4 listing appointments. You took 4 listings.
Yeah.
So we have pictures of that,
awesome.
folks.
And like you said, it's about being geographically attached to a community. To this day, after explaining to friends and family what I'm doing to still continue selling real estate, they just, don't you need to be here? And I just simply explain that I do not need to be there. I partner with great agents across the country, and the buyer agents do the open houses and I take the listings. So we've found a very efficient, effective way to take more listings, Bob.
And everybody thinks that's crazy that like sellers don't want to do a Zoom meeting, right? 2020 changed all that, folks. COVID changed all of that for us.
Mm-hmm.
And now, in my opinion, Robert, tell me if you agree, sellers would prefer to do it on Zoom versus you coming to their house now.
You know what? I can tell you the very large percentage of the sellers that are realistic sellers thank me for introducing them this efficient way. And it truly is more efficient for all parties involved, the seller, the agents. It's just a much smoother system. And I had people actually thank me for introducing that to them.
Yeah. And I know as the agents, guys, it's going to be outside the box for you to think about this because I can hear all the wheels going, I would never do that. My sellers would never want that. How do you determine the value of the house? All that. Folks, so Robert, tell them what your strategy is or your theory is on whether or not they're qualified sellers or not. So the primary place of your sellers is coming from what? FSBO canceled expireds?
Correct. I target mostly the for sale by owners because they're the lowest hanging fruit on the seller tree. They have their hands up, as you and I have talked about multiple times. So that's the first place I need to go. Second place is expireds. We're talking to sellers that have had 6 months, most of the cases, 6 months of disappointment. They've not gotten their price. It's usually, you and I both know it's because of price.
Right.
But once they get expired and they're still seriously looking to sell their home, it's perfect with our strategies that we have in place, open their eyes up to much better ways to sell their home. So I primarily work for sale by owner, expireds. I do a lot of pre-foreclosure, reach out to community owners in the area that are in distress. I want to be able to offer them guidance in the event we can help them stave off the foreclosure. Fantastic. A lot of cases, they're not able to stop the foreclosure and therefore they come back to me. So those are the three main areas. And if you add in investors and attorneys.
Okay. So we talk about a seller saying, how do you determine the value? One of the things, how many people do you talk to a week? Let's start there.
You know what? My goal is to talk to 100 people per week. Sometimes I hit that goal. Sometimes I don't, but that's the target number every single week, every Monday. And I end up getting 20 people of that 100 because I track and measure my numbers. I get 20 interested sellers and really between 3 and 5 actually follow through with the appointment. But those numbers are okay with me.
And so you end up listing how many homes a month on average?
Anywhere between 3 and 5. And sometimes you just get a bad batch of people that are unrealistic. Sometimes you get lucky and you get some really good motivated sellers, but I'd say between 3 and 5 a month.
Because that's where I wanted to go. So you could talk to 2, 3, 4 people today, but that doesn't mean that you necessarily want to list their property, does it?
Part of my process is I do Zoom for a lot of reasons. It's most efficient, effective, but more importantly is I like to vet out those sellers because I don't necessarily want to drive an hour to go to somebody's house, to be in there in an hour and 3 hours is gone. So I use this as a pre-qualifying process. So between the first 3 to 5 minutes, I'm getting to know where they stand on price. Because if we can't come to an agreement on price, the conversation basically ends there. And I know how to price a property. I do BPOs for Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae. So I know how to price a property without even seeing it. There's no need to. So if that seller doesn't show motivation, and I'm not saying motivated as in desperate, but motivated as in realistic, that conversation is usually 3 to 5 minutes. Once they say, yes, I'm in, then the presentation can begin.
Okay. So how many people do you turn away more people than you take?
You know what? Carla and I were just talking about this the other day. I've turned away more listings than I'd like to think about because I just don't know that I have the patience to work with an unrealistic seller. It just seems like it's not going to work. So if somebody wants $1 million, Bob, and it's worth 800, yeah, I won't take that listing. Where more agents are taking that listing, hoping for a price reduction and or somebody decides to come in and buy it. I don't do the hope and a prayer type of marketing. It's just not worth it. So I've turned away more than I'd like.
And I know I'm unique in this, and I know you're unique in that the idea of saying, hey, take any listing and then work the price down. I think that's absolute career suicide, in my opinion. So think of it this way. Somebody puts a sign up and you wait 30 or 45 days to start lowering the price. By that time, you're trying to catch a slippery knife. The thing expires in 4, 5, 6 months. The new agent comes along and gets them to do the right price because now they go, oh, that Robert was right. He didn't do anything because it's always our fault. And then a new agent comes along with the right price and 2 weeks later, it's under contract. All those people in the neighborhood have been going by that sign, your sign, for 6 months. Go, man, this guy never sold the house. Look at that. Oh, another agent comes in 2 weeks, sold it. Guys, how do you build market share if you do those things?
And that is why I like expireds.
Be the second person in the door.
Yeah, absolute best.
And so everybody thinks he's nuts when I ask that question, or like him and I are spoken on stages together and things like that. And they just think it's crazy to turn away a listing. But again, think about it from his perspective. He's on the other side of the country. Does he want to be talking to a seller every day? Hey, Robert, how many buyers you got? How many buyers you got? How many buyers? No, it
No,
doesn't give you the life you want.
no, it does not.
And I promise you, if you're closing, because he sells every listing. So if you're closing 3 to 5 listings every month, you can do whatever the heck you want financially, right? But it's outside the box thinking, isn't it? Like most agents, when you tell the story, they think you're nuts, right? Or, oh, I could never do that.
They certainly have trouble getting their head around it. And I've talked to a number of agents in detail after, say, I'm a guest of a Zoom call, a mastermind, and I talk about that process. They don't say anything when I'm a guest, but then they'll call me or reach out to me and say, hey, walk me through how you do Zoom listings. And I have 3 or 5 agents that I've been talking to recently that I want to get on my podcast. And they too are starting to take listings via Zoom, and they're having great success with it. So it does work. It just takes a little bit of time to get these agents to understand that maybe take a step back and look at the technology we have in front of us.
And do this, build the system around that, right? When you
Mhm.
see, the thing is, folks, when you decide what kind of business you want, then you have to design the systems around it to make that happen. Robert just didn't sell everything and go, hey, and trail it across the country without a plan or without a system or without a time block schedule or any of that, right? Like, you got a predetermined listing presentation that works on Zoom that we know over the years now. It's, hey, we keep tweaking and whatever, and it works really well that way. And really, isn't most of it just your confidence level? Don't you think?
You know what? I've always considered myself very confident, but when you reach out to a FSBO for the first time, I don't care how confident somebody is going in, they're going to start going, I don't even know what I'm saying. The confidence level drops immediately. So
Right.
confidence has a big thing to do with it. And that all comes with education, understanding the process, building the confidence, and then exuding that confidence onto your seller. Confidence is a big deal, but it comes
Yeah,
with
building
learning your scripts and
skills
it comes with learning
is a
scripts.
system, right? What are you going to say? How do you say it? Do you have a script? So, hey, I work on scripts. I have all kinds of scripts and everything, but you'll never know it because we work on teaching agents. Don't read this thing. Hi, Robert. My name is Bob and I notice your home is for sale. Oh my God. No, nobody would do that.
Most people do that though, and that's why they have little to no success.
Yeah. And literally, it's all about your confidence levels. Here's what I can tell you, folks. If you're never going to believe that you could do a listing presentation on Zoom, we'll have agents argue with us. Nope, that'll never work. My answer is you're right. It will never work for you because you're not going to work hard to prove yourself wrong.
That's right.
But everybody thinks that we're crazy. Now, one other thing I want to touch on real quick too is REO, because you are an REO. So tell them who you teach for and all that stuff.
Sure. A little bit of background on me. I come from an REO family. Mother was very involved in the bank and the savings and loan debacle in the early 70s or late 70s, early 80s. And then when it reared its ugly head again in the 90s, I was front and center. My brother, mother, and I working with Fannie, Freddie, and all the big banks. And we'd run down and take photos of the property, get it to the 1 hour photo, wait there an hour, come back, get our glue stick out, pop them on the addendum, total old school, typing the BPO. And then that's how I cut my teeth in the REO business. And then it reared its ugly head again in the early 2000s. And then I became a very proficient, and I started training, coaching, and mentoring agents all over the country on the default space, the REO properties, working with banks, how to position yourself with banks. So now I'm with eXp Realty, and I do all the corporate training for the REO certification that eXp provides all their agents, which I don't know any other companies doing that, but I find great pride in being able to help an agent identify another opportunity to grow their business. And I don't want anyone losing their home, Bob, but
Yeah, exactly. But you also teach for some of the REO providers, if you will, some of the biggest in the space.
I did and will continue to do training, certification training for RealMac, which is now rebranded to NADP, National Association of Default Professionals. I've done certification on both REO and short sale for 5-star, their DS News, that conference. So I do a lot of guest appearances when it comes to REO, a lot of training. I just finished up a 4-part series with ResNet, a certification course that we launched. And so, yeah, I'm very involved in it because I understand it. So, of course, the confidence that I have in that space is it takes some time to understand how the default market works. It's different than traditional. Once you understand how that works, it's a huge amount of opportunity working with the corporate seller. So, yeah, it's been and then there's just wonderful people to work with. It's a good way to get business.
And again, guys, that Also safeguards you in good markets and bad. If it's a bad real estate market, guess what happens? You have more foreclosure
Mhm.
and there are more listings there. So
They call it recession-proof your business.
exactly. Okay. So with that, Robert, thanks so much for being here. Folks, before you leave, here's what I'm going to offer you to help you out. If you need help scaling your business to 7 figures, you can go to www.homebosslistinghub.com. There's a free analysis that you can take and then schedule a free productivity and marketing review so that you can learn what you need to implement in order to scale yourself to 7 figures and build a recession-proof business. Go to the website. You can do it. There's no cost. Robert, thanks so much for being here. I
My pleasure.
appreciate you sharing your wisdom and your expertise. And folks, thanks for listening. Don't forget to share the podcast. We'll see you on the next Top Agent Talks podcast. Have an amazing day. Talk to you later.